Installation of 140 billion naira solar power solution nationwide starts next week. Federal government to convert 1 million vehicles to run on autogas by 2021. Plus, Egypt to invest in gold mining in Nigeria. Details of this and more on Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. The federal government says it will next week commence the process of installation of 5 million solar home systems in underserved and off-grid communities across the country. The program, which would be executed across the country, is in continuation of a coordinated implementation of the Economic Sustainability Plan, a response mechanism by the Muhammadu Buhari-led administration to the novel coronavirus pandemic. The program will include the assembly and manufacturing of grid solutions to facilitate growth of the local manufacturing industry, while the use of local content will be incentivized. The Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Office of the Vice President, Laulu Akande, said the work plan for the implementation of the 140 billion naira solar home systems, a component of the ESP, indicate that the first set of installations will be done nationwide in December 2020. By its design, the program will cover up to 5 million households, serving about 25 million individual Nigerians who live mostly in rural communities and not currently connected to the national grid. Also, the federal government says at least 1 million vehicles across the country would be converted to run on auto gas by end of 2021. A statement by Special Assistant on Media to the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Garbaddin Mohammed, said the conversion will be expedited with the official launch of the National Gas Expansion Program December 1st by President Muhammadu Buhari. The statement adds that the rollout is the culmination of the resolve of the Buhari-led government to deepen domestic usage of natural gas in its various forms. He further stated that it is in line with the government's plan to make gas the first choice source of cheaper and cleaner energy for Nigerians in their personal and industrial endeavors. Moving on, youth unemployment has no doubt scorched Nigeria, but speakers at a lecture by the Institute of Strategic Entrepreneurs of Nigeria have re-echoed that entrepreneurship is key to solving the unemployment situation. They submit that Nigeria's economic growth is lower than its numerical growth and not enough to lift the bottom half of the population out of poverty. Therefore, entrepreneurs are much needed to help the country get to the point of a producing nation from being a consuming nation, which can be achieved using digital tools.
By the time we have more people who are self-employed and also employer of laborers and produce those things that are valuable for us to have the value chain for them to be exported, we know that we'll look beyond the conventional oil that every state government come to Abuja monthly before the coronavirus pandemic to collect their allocation and go. We start looking inward into what they have.
We will be taking a look at building economic resilience for SMEs, the aftermath of COVID-19. And to do justice to this, I have with me in the studio Executive Secretary of the Tax Administration Forum, Babatunde Oladapo. Babatunde, you're welcome to Business Express.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me on the program.
Okay, let's begin with the fact that resilience is as much as a tool for surviving during crisis as it is for thriving. SMEs amid COVID-19. Can you share your thoughts with us? How have SMEs fared?
Yeah, it's a mixed bundle. COVID-19 came up on us like a boat from the sky.
More like a thief in the night.
Exactly. So a lot of people were caught unaware. Even government never anticipated it. The thinking would be COVID-19 is outside Africa. It was there, but then it has exposed that the world is closer than we think. And when you look at the flip side, there are good lessons that SMEs have learned. I'm sure when you go out, you see a lot of bikes moving around distributing stuff. It has taught us that businesses can be done beyond having to come to an office or probably going to a shopping mall. It can be home delivery. And then the use of technology like online platforms like Zoom and Facebook, even Instagram, has come to the fore. And I don't think that's a trend that will go away. So SMS has benefited. But if you're measuring impact of the percolation of the benefit, that might be another thing for discussion. Then when you're looking at how it impacted negatively, for instance, when you look at schools, they're part of the SMEs. Schools thrive having children in schools. Parents can't pay school fees if children are not going to school. And we organized a program about 2 weeks ago with World Impact Development Foundation, an Abuja-based NGO, and the focus was to take a look at building resilience for SMEs.
Talking about building this resilience for SMEs, aside the impact of COVID-19 on the SMEs, which you mentioned, opened room for other new markets and other tools for SMEs to explore. There's been a lot of funding of SMEs. Before now, we know microfinance banks as well as the commercial banks were directly involved. But with the COVID-19, we saw interventions by the federal government through the central bank. With all of these funds coming in, 75 billion here, 75 billion there, how do you think these funds should be properly managed and there should be continuity as a good number of SMEs are also coming on board to access these funds to go into production? How can this be sustained over time and also beyond COVID-19?
Okay, that's a good one. I must applaud the Buhari-led government for the timely response, and that's following global trend. All over the world, governments are bringing in intervention fund to bridge the gap in terms of funding, because even microfinance and commercial banks are also hit. When people are not working, people don't deposit money, you don't do business. So government have done well. But taking a closer look at it, it's not so much about what the quantum of money brought out, but it's actually a case of how do we weave in monitoring mechanism? How are we able to apply the principle of attending to the most hit SMEs? How do we identify? How do we classify? What are the criteria for disbursement? Because at the end of the day, we are not taking a closer look at this. You'll find out that it misses the target. And then talking about the long-term sustainability of it, the fact is government is not into philanthropy. Government's business is not business. Government is supposed to provide the enabling environment. So what we are seeing government do now in terms of bringing money out is just an intervention for a short while. Commercial banks will still go back into business of lending. Microfinance will also go back, while government will go back to providing the enabling environment. So I think we need to think ahead of time. How do we go back and help microfinance and the commercial banks? Because most of them were actually in distress. So how do we get them to optimally be friends and partners in progress with SMEs? That should be the talk we should be having now. Thankfully, COVID-19 is on its way out. but we should be talking about how do we strengthen microfinances and commercial banks.
Okay, talking about strengthening microfinance banks as well as commercial banks to improve funding of SMEs. You understand, just a few months ago, we had the BOFIA Act being strengthened, where commercial banks and all banks can actually get their monies back. There's this a lot of security. Do you see this improving lending, particularly to SMEs?
Yeah, because one of the things that the bankers do have fear of is the ability of recouping. They are like business people like every other person. When you lend, you get your money back with interest. So I think BOFIA is a good one, and I think there's also the issue of the CBN had something that was launched before COVID. It's the asset registry. When you talk about lending money, you need to have something as an insurance.
As a collateral.
Collateral registry. So I think if all these principles, good idea, but we should look at implementation. Are we following through? If all these are put in place, bankers will be able to lend. They will know they will be able to get back their fund. And then when you look at, what the SMEs are bringing up, are they actually what the loans being lent out? Are there assurance that those business won't even die? Because the problem is multi-layered. You need to be sure you are lending to an enterprise that can sustain.
That is viable.
That is viable.
Talking about sustainability.
Exactly. So when you lend to, and when you look at Nigeria, even before COVID-19, SMEs had a very big mortality rate, the rate at which they die. Because most time people come into business because an idea comes up, or someone is
it lack of appropriate business plans, or is it the knowledge about the market to buy and sell to spur demand so that production can also equal the demand?
It's a mix of both and even beyond, because I do tell people from the perspective of a tax administrator, because you have to go after businesses and get your taxes on behalf of government. And the cry has been, people will tell you government is not being fair. And the question is, you find that most time those in that sector thinking they are doing business, they are not actually doing business. Because business is serious business. You have to see that when you have an idea, you need to look at a business plan. You need to look at how do you get funding. You need to think about how do you mitigate risk that may come along. You need to think about marketing strategy. Yeah, I know I can sell here, but how do I get across in a sustainable manner, in a way that will make people part away with their money? So those are serious things, and the experience has been people just get into business, especially the SMEs and the micro one. The people just feel, this is the trending thing. Let me go into it. So
now that government is pumping a lot of money to support existing SMEs as well as registering new businesses, I know part of the survival fund of the 75 billion, you have 250, targeted 250 new businesses to be registered by CAC. Where do you think these businesses should be looking out for at this particular time, for them not just to grow, but them to survive beyond COVID-19?
Okay, I think what the business will have to, you need to look at your unique selling points. What is your products? What are you selling? Is it in demand? Can I create a demand for it? Then you need to have an identity, because we're talking about building SMEs that become multinationals of tomorrow. And when you look at the business landscape in Nigeria, as of 2019, a census of medium, small, and enterprises was done. We were in the region of close to 42 million.
Wow.
The micro enterprises account for 41 million. While SMEs and the medium enterprises are just 0 point something percentage of the figure. And you ask yourself, and when you look at the states, Oyo, Osun, and Lagos, and when you look at those demographics, it tells you That's where you have population. That's where you probably have big industries and whatever. So if you're going to do business, you need to do some hard work. So it's one thing to register a business. It's another thing to keep that business going.
In keeping businesses going at this time and beyond this time, where do you see the place of technology playing a role?
Fantastic. The game has changed. If you don't see technology as an enabler in this age and time, you are like that bird that went extinct, the dodo. You need to embrace technology. For instance, I used to tell people around me, there's hardly anything you want to know that is not online. We have a phrase in my office, they say, "Ask Mr. Google." There's actually something online that will tell you. You want to do a business plan, it's there. You want to find out consumption pattern, it's there. You want to have meetings without having to travel, it's there. So technology is the hint thing. So that's why businesses now will have to move from the traditional brick and mortar. In some advanced economies, people stay at home and do and thankfully it's happening in Nigeria. A lot of people are doing stuff from home. So it's no longer I have to go out to make a living. You can sit in the comfort of your home and still have customers all over Nigeria. So technology should be as an enabler. And that brings me to the role of government, because from the experience we had at WhatsApp, trying to get across to our members in West Africa in terms of training. This year we did more training than expected. And we have
and also the continental market is about to take off.
Yeah. So you find out if government has to help businesses in Nigeria in terms of making internet and technology affordable, government will have to partner with innovators, companies.
There's a lot of progress in improving the broadband connectivity as we have it today. Thank you so very much. It has been the Executive Secretary, West Africa Tax Administration Forum, Babatunde Oladapo. Thank you again for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you for having me.
Moving on, the dollar touched a more than 2-year low on Monday and is set to log its largest monthly fall since July as a combination of vaccine optimism and bets on more monetary easing in the United States drove investors out of the world's reserve currency. Let's now see how the Naira is exchanging for other international currencies. As the year gradually comes to an end with its usual festivities, which most people often make use of chickens for different meals, poultry farmers in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State are lamenting the adverse effects of high cost of chickens as a result of high cost and scarcity of poultry feeds. They expressed fear that the Yuletide will be more worrisome with families. Business News correspondent Joy Ubani reports that most poultry farms and poultry feed sellers are almost empty.
Poultry farming is a form of animal husbandry which raises domesticated birds such as chickens, ducks, turkeys, and geese to produce meat or eggs for food. Many young and old people have made it a source of livelihood and as such invested in poultry farming due to its financial benefits. Recently, the scarcity of poultry feeds across the country has become a thing of concern. In Uyo, farmers and sellers of poultry products are gradually folding up as a result of non-availability and high cost of poultry feeds.
We have never experienced this. The way it is for the past 2 months, I mean, it's something that many farmers have committed suicide. Why? Because when you sunk in your hard-earned money into a business of poultry, raising of birds, And all what you realize is that at the end there's no feed to feed them.
This time is very hard because there's no feed available around you. At times you have the money, you don't see the feed to buy.
They, however, express fear during and after the Yellowtide season.
There's no raw materials. That's what the company are saying. According to government, they say they are opening the border to import the maize to come in for now, because they said they have the material in stock in our reserve.
Most of it all is in this Akwa Ibom. Akwa Ibom, there is no feed mills, and it's really affecting us. Before you could buy a fowl now, a little fowl is from 5,000. Plead the government, if they can install one in Akwa Ibom state, feed mill, it will really be of help to farmers.
Okay. Some retailers also speak on their own side of the coin.
The issues of buying chicken now, especially like we that we used to go and buy it from the farm, come back and sell it, is very, very expensive. And it's so difficult for customers to say, okay, this chicken that we used to buy from you people 1.5 now is now sold for at the rate of 2,000 something.
We used to sell like 50 a day. Now we are selling like 15. We are praying that chicken feed should reduce price.
As Christmas season draws closer, the people say it is their hope that high cost of poultry feeds will be a thing of the past.
Thank you. Gold slipped on Monday as upbeat equities fueled by optimism over a coronavirus vaccine-led economic rebound offset a weaker dollar, putting the bullion on course for its worst month in 4 years. A total turnover of 1.816 billion shares worth 25.791 billion naira in 31,665 deals were traded last week by investors on the floor of the exchange. Over to Bosede Abel for a summary on how the market fared last week.
The NSE All-Share Index and market capitalization appreciated by 2.19% to close the week at 34,885.51 and 18.2 trillion naira. All other indices finished higher, with the exception of NSECG, NSE Banking, NSE Afri Bank Value, NSE Afri Dividend, NSE Merry Growth, and NSE Consumer Goods, which depreciated, while the NSE ASM Index closed flat at a turnover of 1.8 billion shares worth 25.7 billion naira in 31,665 deals were traded in the week by investors on the floor of the exchange. The financial services industry led the activity chart with 1.2 billion shares valued at 14.7 billion naira, traded in 18,392 deals. Conglomerate industry followed with 217.1 million shares worth 231.8 million naira in 1,226 deals. The third place was the consumer goods industry with a turnover of 113.7 million shares worth 2.5 billion naira in 4,568 deals. Trading in the top three equities were Zenith Bank, Transnational Corporation of Nigeria, and Access Bank. They mutually accounted for 649.5 million shares worth 8.1 billion naira in 6,395 deals. A total of 471,624 units of exchange traded product ETPs valued at 4.2 billion naira were traded in 88 deals, as well as a total of 9,697 units of federal government bonds valued at 12.1 million naira were traded in the week in 8 deals. Summary of price changes saw 27 equities appreciated in price during the week, 43 equities depreciated in price, while 91 equities remained unchanged. Bosde Able, Business Express.
Still on the markets, Nigerian stocks ended Monday's trading session on positive territory. The all-share index gained 0.45% to close at 35,042.14 basis points. Market capitalization rose to 18.3 trillion naira, 415.5 million units of shares valued at 4.8 billion naira exchanged hands in 5,267 deals. Stocks in Asia Pacific saw muted moves in Monday trade as investors digested the release of China's official manufacturing purchasing managers index for November. Bosere Able again reports.
European markets opened lower in early Monday trade as global stocks paused for breath following a bumper month on the back of positive vaccine news. Also, stocks between the UK and the European Union are heading into a very significant week. British Foreign Minister Dominic Raab said Sunday, with time running out for the two sides to iron out lingering disagreements over their post-Brexit trading relationship. Stocks in Asia Pacific fell in Monday trade as investors digested the release of China's official manufacturing purchasing managers index (PMI) for November. China's National Bureau of Statistics announced Monday that the official manufacturing PMI for November was at 52.1. That was above expectations for a 51.5 reading forecast by analysts. Also, the trade frictions between Washington and Beijing may also have weighed on investors' sentiment on Monday. Shanghai Composite declined 0.49% to approximately 3,391.76. Hang Seng Index dropped 2.06% to close at 26,341.49, and Nikkei stock futures also fell in early Monday trade. Stock futures fell in early Monday trade in the United States as investors looked to set cash in some of the historical strong gains logged in November. Futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average implied an opening loss of about 150 points. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq 100 futures traded lower. Bosde Able, Business Express.
This is where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations, and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is NTA News Now. You can also use the hashtag, it's BizX. Business Express returns Tuesday by 9:30 in the morning. Be safe out there.